Wow, happy Wednesday. It was about 77 degrees outside, which was pretty awesome. I'm not going to lie, it was pretty awesome. Um, Traffic wasn't too bad. I mean, it's spring break, so that probably had something to do with it. It was just a nice, lovely day. That being said, this is going to probably be an interesting story. I'm reading it blind, so I have no clue what this is all about. But I kind of wish that the Texas government will look into Austin. It seems like they're making all the moves, but they're ignoring Austin. Well, not ignoring Austin. I don't know. It's weird. They make laws to go after Austin, but they target everyone else but Austin. It's just interesting. Texas officials have announced a takeover of Houston's nearly 200,000 student school district. Houston, Texas officials on Wednesday announced the state takeover of Houston's nearly 200,000 student public school district in the eighth largest in the country, acting on years of threats and angering Democrats who has sailed the move as political. Yeah, because, I guess Democrats and the teachers union go hand to hand. The announcement made by Republican Governor Abbott, Education Commissioner Mike Morath amounts one of the largest school takeover ever in the U.S. It also deepened a high-stake rift between Texas' largest city, where Democrats wield control, and the state Republican leaders who have sought to increase the authority following the election's fumbles and COVID-19 restrictions. Oh yeah, election fumbles, because Harris County was one of the last counties to count their votes. In a letter to the Houston Independent School District, Martha said that the Texas Education Agency will replace Superintendent Millard House II and the district elected board of trustees with new superintendents and appointed board of managers made of residents from within the district's boundaries. So it's not exactly a takeover, but it's a takeover. Marv said the board has failed to improve students' outcomes while conducting chaotic board meetings marred with infighting and violation of Open Meetings Act and procurement laws. He accused the districts of failing to provide proper special education services and violating the state and federal laws within its approach of supporting students with disabilities. I mean, so far it sounds like it's a good plan. He cited the 7-year-old record of poor academic performance of one of the district's roughly 50 high schools, Wheatley High, as the poor performance of several other campuses. I mean, we actually have I think it's Mendez Middle School that's been failing for the past, I want to say, 3 to 4 years. Let's see here. The governing body of the school system bears ultimate responsibility for the outcomes of all students. While the current board of trustees has made progress, systemic problems in Houston ISD continues to impact district students, Roth wrote in his 6-page letter. Most of Houston's school board members have been replaced since the state began making moves towards the takeover in 2019. The House became superintendent in 2021. He and the current school board will remain until the new board of managers is chosen sometime after June 1st. The board of managers will be appointed for at least 2 years. House, in a statement, pointed to strides made across the district, saying in the announcement does not discount the gains we have made. He said he's focused on ensuring a smooth transition without the disruption of our core mission, providing an exceptional educational experience of all students. Texas State Teachers Association and the American Civil Liberties Unions of Texas condemned the takeover. At a news conference in Austin, the state Democratic leaders called for the legislature to increase funding for the education and raise teacher pay raise. they already make enough money. I mean, I've looked into it, mirrored with how I make my money. It's really on par. I mean, I don't know what these people expect. They expect to make not 3 digit, but 6 digit yearly incomes. I mean, they make a decent amount. I mean, they make anywhere between 30 to 40 as a first year teacher, and it goes up every year. Um, we acknowledge that there's been underperformance in the past, mainly to that severe underfunding in our public schools. State Rep Amanda Wally, who represents parts of North Houston, the annual Census Bureau survey of public schools funding towards Texas spent roughly $10,000 per pupil in the fiscal 2020 fiscal year, and more than $3,000 less than a national average, according to Ginder Institute for Urban Research at Rice University in Houston. The state was able to take over the district under a change in state law that Houston Democrat Rep. Harold Dutton Jr. proposed in 2015 in an op-ed piece at the Houston Chronicle on Monday. Dutton said that he has no regrets of what he did. We're hearing voices of opposition and people who says that the HISD shouldn't have faced consequences for allowing their campus to fail for more than 5 years or 5 consecutive years. Those critics' concerns are misplaced, Dutton wrote. One of the big cities, including Philadelphia, New Orleans, and Detroit, in recent decades have gone through state takeovers, which are generally viewed in the last resort for underperforming schools, often met with community backlash. I can see that because you got a state overstepping local elections because school boards are usually elected on the local levels. So I understand the backlash. Critics argue that the state interventions generally have not led to big improvements. I mean, was there improvements? Texas started moving to take over the district following allegations of misconduct by school trustees, including inappropriate influence of vendor contracts and chronically low academic scores at Wheatley High. The district sued to block a takeover, but new education laws subsequently passed by the GOP-controlled state legislature and January ruling of the Texas Supreme Court cleared the way for the state to seize control. Schools in Houston are not under mayoral control, unlike New York and Chicago, but as expected, the takeover mounted. The city Democratic leaders unified in oppositions. Of course, they're going to be unified in oppositions. The Democrats are all about collectivism. Race also has an issue because the overwhelming majority of the students in Houston schools are Hispanic or black. Well, I mean, I don't think that has anything to play to it. I mean, because Hispanics and black people are fully capable of being smart. It just happens to be the demographic of Houston, or at least in the schools. Domingo Morel, a professor of political science and public schools at New York University, has studied school takeovers nationwide and said the political dynamics in Texas are similar to where states have intervened elsewhere. Demographics in Houston, Morel says, are also similar. If we're just focusing on taking over school districts because they underperform, we would have a lot more takeovers. Morel says, but that's not what's happening. But what's happening? Well, a reporter from Austin, Texas, Associated Press, at Colorado in Austin, Texas, contribute to this report. But what's happening? What is happening? Are you just trying to say that race has the contributing factor? Are you trying to say Governor Abbott, which is married to a Hispanic, is just going after Houston ISD because of racism? I mean, what's happening here? See, this is why I hate the bring race into the issue. Race is also an issue because overwhelming majority of students in Houston schools are Hispanic or black, but are they underperforming? And how do we get them to perform better? I mean, this is why people don't trust the news. They kind of get your attention, but without actually telling you the details. I mean, they talk about funding, like Texas spends 10,000 per pupil in the fiscal year 2020, more than 3,000 less than the national average. I mean, yeah, what's the national average? Are you counting like way overpopulated cities like New York City and a lot of cities in California? I mean, just because the national average doesn't really say much. I don't know. Even though it's kind of written well, but it's missing the meat. There's no meat to this documentation. There's just enough to whet your appetite, but not really enough. Let's see here. Is there more to this? Let's see here. Let's talk about the Houston Public Media. Let's see here. Does that have anything over? Texas Education announced Wednesday plan to install state-appointed manager. The action places Houstonians of the board who have firm belief that all children can learn and achieve at high levels when properly supported. This action placed the kind of a board in charge of the district. Educational Commissioner Mike Marth told Houston Public Media, I think it's actually more important for families to know that the decisions are not reflected of the incredible students in Houston ISD, nor the reflection of the hardworking teachers and staff of the Houston ISD. There are many students in Houston that are truly flourishing, but there's also a large number of students in Houston that have not been given support necessary to succeed. Martha describes Houston's ISD Superintendent Millard House as a student-focused man of integrity, but he says that he will also be replaced. I mean, at least they're giving them praise while kicking them out, not kicking them down below. The case appointed managers will hold immense power. They can control the budget, school closures, collaborations with charter networks, policies around the curriculum, and library books, as well as hiring and firing superintendents, among other important decisions. The T first tried to seize control of ISD in 2019. The agency pointed to Wheatley High School, which has failed to meet the state standards, as well as the functional district leadership. The move that was held up by litigation until the Supreme Court of Texas ruled in T favor. I think that's the Texas Education Agency. In general, we're allowing the case to continue to the lower court on Thursday. But the Houston ISD board voted 8-1 to drop the lawsuit in order to end further expenditure of the district resources, as there's no further legal recourses. Democratic State Representative Harold Dutton took credit for the idea of the takeover, which have been opposed by many members of his party. The idea becomes state law in 2015. Changes in ISD leadership and the law allows these types of takeovers, adding complexity to the case. Republican State Senator Paul Bettencourt was a primary proponent of these changes in state laws in 2021, which he argued make it easier for the Texas education to intervene when the school system fails. Bettencourt tweeted his approval of all the Republican Texas Supreme Court decisions. Does he here? In court, the T asserted that the Houston ISD former board have engaged in unethical, illegal behavior like making important decisions behind closed doors. The agency also pointed to the public racial tensions between Black and Latino board members, but the takeover is primarily justified by years of low standardized test scores and post-graduation performance at Wheatley High School, one of the district's 208 campuses in 2019. Wheatley received a passing accountability rating by T after the first takeover attempt, and Houston ISD received a solid B rating from the agency's last year, or school's last year. T argued that those factors were irrelevant. The commissioner's view was, yes, AHID, a large school district, and what that means have some very wealthy, very high performing schools up in here, or up here that are doing great, but you also have schools like Wheatley and Kashmir that struggle year after year. State Assistant Solicitor General Kyle Highlight told Texas Supreme Court Justice in October. And if you're a student at one of these low performing schools, that does not help you to know that elsewhere in the school districts, there are schools doing great. The commissioner believes that every student should have access to quality education. I mean, they're all about equity, right? I mean, there should be, we've been told that equity equal of outcome is more important than equal of opportunities, or opportunities of equalness. Opponents of the takeover argue Houston ISD made immense progress since the 2018-19 school year. In less than 4 years, the majority of the school board trustees lost their elections or left office. So this is where it gets complex. The district hired a new superintendent and Wheatley received a passing accountability rating. I wonder if this is just out of spite because they wanted to take over Houston ISD back in the day and were stonewalled. I mean, I am willing to entertain that thought. Don't get me wrong. I am willing to entertain that thought. Houston ISD trusted Judah Cruz run the one election in 2019, the day before the takeover push was announced. The current board is a different board than the one that began in the lawsuit. The board President Cruz wrote in October when the Supreme Court of Texas heard oral arguments in that case. Conservative Bridget Wade unseated the trustee and Sung in 2021. 2 years into the legal battle after the takeover, Wade ran for office partly because of the dysfunctional prompted the T's attempt to replace the board in 2019. I think they didn't have a choice at the time, she said in October. I think maybe it's time for us to be able to prove ourselves without oversight of the T. But then again, I'll leave that to the courts to decide. The courts decide with T, but did not mandate the agency actually move forward with the takeover. I mean, like I said, it's going to get complicated. Wow, this one's got a lot more meat to it. I should have read this one and not the other one. State officials will seize control of ISD, the biggest school district in Texas. This hostile takeover threatens to close schools and drive out teachers and take away the power of the local community to elect their own leaders. Of course you would. I think there's some saber sabbling. I don't know, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. You might want to remind me if I haven't paid attention to this, what the outcome is. It seems like they made some, or at least the GOP made some victories on the school board level. And now that they were ruled in court that they could take over the ISD, they're just going to take it over. Hopefully, they don't fire everyone and they keep some of the board of trustees that are on their side. I don't know. Only time will tell. I don't know. Just thought that was interesting. I don't know if this was really the best story for me to cover because I don't really have any skin in the game, to be honest. I'm not really paying attention to Houston politics. I'm more focused on Austin politics, Texas politics, and World War III. With that being said, that is my video. Leave a comment down below if you want. But most importantly, have yourself a wonderful day, morning, or evening.